go to any web URL, right? Type in the IP address, and they'll be able to see what the faculty staff is teaching in front, right? That's very useful for them. They can take their own screenshots, write their own notes, and that's something I think quite a lot of schools I've encountered with asked for as well, especially in a larger setting. So I find that particularly quite useful, right? Which is on the SciNet Pure, right? Then if I were to move up again, right, with the SciNet Pure Pro, what it then offers in addition is that it allows you to dial in its device, right? So within the SciNet Pure Pro, you can dial in Microsoft Teams, or you can actually dial in Zoom, right? So it simplifies the process for the faculty staff to come in. They just need to tap on plus sign, right? So here you can have, for example, Teams, right? So you can press that. I didn't connect any camera, so I'm not going to do that. So you can press that, and then you will be able to start the Teams session, right? Or if you're Zoom, right, you can pre-configure the Zoom and you log in. With the administrator's help, right, you can have these two accounts pre-set up, right? So if the faculty comes in, just start the session, and they'll be able to start their hybrid classroom, right? So that's the difference, right? Just now I talked about starting your Teams or Zoom session from the faculty's own account. Here I'm talking about the device itself having its own Zoom or Teams account, so that you don't have to bring in your device, right? So as a faculty, you come in and you just start the session, you can run a hybrid remote class, right? Clear? Okay? Yeah. So that's one addition the SciNet Pure Pro can offer. Anything you want to add, Gary? I'm not sure if I missed out anything. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's the SciNet Pure, right, series, right? Any other questions? Okay. So I'll move up to the SciNet Core Pro, then I'll pass it on to Gary. We'll talk about also other interesting features that we can do, right? The SciNet Pure Pro allows you to do even more, right? Especially useful when you want the sessions to be recorded, for instance, right? Because that's where you can have recording features from our Core Pro, right? So from the Core Pro onwards, right, you will be able to include recording. So for example, over here, right, the three dot, you'll be able to start recording over here, right? So how much you can record is about a day worth of content, right? So when you start recording, right, it gets recorded locally onto SciNet, right? And just before you leave the class, you can actually save that into your shared drive, like I mentioned earlier. Or if your schools are using Panopto, if you heard of Panopto, if you're using Panopto, you can actually save it directly to the Panopto cloud itself. So we have a direct integration with Panopto to do that, right? So that's the two options. Otherwise, if you are conducting a session that you want to actually put it on YouTube Live or Facebook Live, we have webcasting as well, right? That you can do webcasting at the same time when you're doing recording, right? So those options are available, right?
Sorry, when you record, what is a camera which follows the lecturer?
Yes. So the key thing when you're doing recording is you need to ensure that the window of the camera stays open. Yeah. So what I mean is that, for example, if you are opening up a Teams call, right? Yeah. So normally you would have that Teams session with the camera head or with the content itself, right? But once you end the Teams call with it, which then ends the camera, you would then not be able to record because it's not shown on the screen, right? So what I mean is that the recording functions records whatever that you see on the screen. So if you don't see it, it means it's not recording it. Right, clear?
So the recording will also include the voice?
You will also include the voice, right? So
using the device, or you need to have another microphone somewhere?
Yeah, you need to connect it to the microphone and the camera. Yeah, so that you can then record what's on the camera and also hear what has been discussed in the room. Yeah. So that's the part that Kirk will come in and then they will advise you how the room can be set up, ensure that everybody's voice or sometimes just the faculty's voice has to be heard. So you prioritize. Any other questions? Cool. Okay. Yeah. So maybe I'll let Gary carry on the rest of the discussions on our side.
So first of all, thanks for coming, and hope that so far what we have introduced to you will be able to understand better in a way, because what we have covered just now was about the features of our SANET family of products. Right? So as you know, the features that we actually have in one of the boxes out can be wireless sharing. That means whatever devices you have, whether it's a Windows laptop, whether it's a MacBook, whether it's an iPad, iPhone, any of these devices can be wirelessly shared to the screen to show your content for presentation. That's our key features, right? Secondly is about whiteboarding. You can actually write using a whiteboard, to illustrate what you're teaching. Thirdly is about having the capability to present on Microsoft 365 platform, meaning that you can open up your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint to present, even without your device brought in. Right? So there are flexibilities for you to come into the room, where first of all, naturally you use a device to present. In that case, you will wirelessly share to the screen, without any cables or any dongles required. Secondly is that you don't even need to bring in a laptop. You will have a USB. If your PowerPoint are inside your USB, you can just plug in and just read, just open it as a read-only file. Okay. So for example, I have my laptop connected to it right now. So I can have a first choice of using the laptop to present. Alternatively is that I can just touch the screen here. I can use my file explorer to call up my presentation files from my USB, and this can be a document or can be a PDF. So as you can see now, this is a second document that I can open up to present besides my laptop. Thirdly, you don't even need to bring in anything, because at times you may have some ad hoc basis that you want to present. So basically you can call up the file explorer again. As you can see here, we support any of these cloud drives. So if your file is inside a cloud drives, under your personal account, you just have to open up and log in with your credential, get access to your OneDrive or Google Drive or Dropbox to present. So as a presenter, we add flexibility to your usage. Right? Other than that, we have covered about using a whiteboard. You can also use external source that you need to supplement your training. So for example, I have visualizers outside this room. I can call in this content, even this is not inside the room, through an IP stream. So this content is actually coming up from my device outside this room through an IP stream. So it can be maybe your security cameras, it can be your IP cameras that you want to present on. You can always call in as a IP streams. All right, and depending on the model, we have models that can allow you to connect with HDMI source as well. Right, so there are flexibilities through using this SANET here that you can actually call up different contents for your presentation use. All right, so this is what we have covered as the features of the SANET itself. Obviously, we also covered about calls. Actually, nowadays, we have to have a system that can support hybrid teaching. So we can do calls like Zoom, Teams, or any WebRTC platforms. You can call up your 5 participants to join in to your meetings. So these are all our standard features from our SANET models. All right. And what we have set up here is that we have set up 3 different stations, such that nowadays, when we talk about a typical classrooms, we talk about team-based learning, right? So we do have illustrations of how we can set up this room in such manner. Right. I've been to NTU before, and the School of Medicine in NTU, they have this practice of using team-based learning. So the students are sitting in pods. Each pod, you can provide them with a screen or possibly with a sign itself. And nowadays, these pods are movable. So the tables and chairs can be reconfigured depending on the audience size, depending on the room size. All right. With that system, it's again very flexible and it's expandable to more and more stations if we need to have, or can be reduced to a certain number of stations if the audience are not that big enough. Right. So later on, we shall show you how this can be operated. It's the form of what we call as a flipped classroom system here. Before that, we now transit from a single screen station to a dual screen setup here. All right. So a dual screen setup is maybe for the lecture hall, where we have more students joining in the class, but you need dual display to show more content during your presentation. So we have this model called the SINET Pro. It's our centerpiece model, where we have now installed into the rack here. All right. So this model will support a dual screen setup. And I believe it's quite common in NUS that you have this dual screen setup. So what we have here is that from the same unit, we will be able to have a third output that connects to your touch monitor here. And this is meant to be for the moderator to use. Right. The audience will just be seeing these two. Okay? So technically is that this will be facing me. And you guys will not know anything until I share content on the screen. Correct? But I'm going to show it to you how we have this user interface for the moderators to be using the systems and how to operate them. Okay? So first of all, let me just push down everything. As you can see, these are the two audience screens. Our UI is such that the audience screen will be just showing nothing if we don't have content shared out to the screen. What we can do is that these red images are just your background image. It can be customized to your NUS background if you want to, right? So whatever we see now is just the background, which means no content at all, right? Over here, just to deviate a bit, this will have 3 windows of content, right? And what we mentioned earlier on is that we can have up to 4 windows of different content. Over there, you have 1 windows of content, right? At the back of us is basically a separate model which acts as a confidence monitor for the presenter here. Right. It can also be used in the overflow room, where if this room is fully occupied, we can put that model into another separate meeting room that the guys over there can watch whatever we are presenting here. So that acts as a confidence monitor for myself. So whatever I share on screen, I can see the same content over there. Right? So technically, is that these 2 stations are set up for student group to use on their own self. So when I'm not presenting, they can be operating on their own. Right? And what you see here is just 2 stations. Right? Technically, by recommendation, you can support up to 40 stations, 40. So it can be a big classrooms, or it can be a divisible room as well. Right? Divisible room means that the wall can be open or closed, depending on room size, depending on the student size. Okay? So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my main UI page. What you see here is, let me go through quickly. These 2 are the main audience screen. All right, it's showing nothing now. Okay? And this area here is what we call as a prepared view area. So what you can do is you can just touch the screen. We have the plus sign here. We have a file explorer here. Okay, you can just always call up the files by just touching the screen. So these are all my prepared content. It can be a PDF, it can be a Word, it can be a PowerPoint, it can be Excel. It can be any Microsoft document, or it can be an image file, it can be a video file, it can be also from my iPad, from my laptop as well. Okay? from my phone. All right. So let's say I'm going to present using my phone. Okay, I'm going to share to the screen wirelessly, as you can see, and now I'm going to push up to the screen like that. So from my phone, I can now present my lessons. Everything is done wirelessly, which means you will not see cables in this room at all. So this is one content. Okay, I have maybe on my iPad. I'm going to push up here by just click, drag, and drop start. See, it's very intuitive and easy to use, and that content goes up here. Now, if I were to run a video over the iPad here, okay, I'm going to play back the video. And the audio will also. So I have a static content, I have a video running. See that? You can just quick drag and drop. That's that position. Such that I'm mirroring the content from the left to the right by just a touch of the button. You can always stop the mirroring mode and it goes back default. This will drop. And you can push up the next content up again. So I can push up the next content up. I can actually use my other mouses like here. Okay. At any time, I can always start recording. This to stop. So I press the button here, and you can see here configured the recording actually starts. I can send this. Alright, it has got enough capacity to allow you to record for the whole day. Right, even though it's at a 4K resolution or Full HD resolution. So I let it run. The recording will always run. That means that whenever I stop recording, I will be able to have two recorded files from the first screen and the second screen as two separate MP4 files. All right. Now, if I have an IP camera connected to the same system, I can also record that IP camera as a third file. So if you have editing software, after the lessons, we can use the software to stitch all the three raw files together as one. So it can contain your talking head and your presented content all in one file. Right, and it's for the students to watch later on. Okay? So back to this control monitor here. As you can see, I can just alternate them between by quick drag and drop style. Okay? Close this. I can always alternate them. Now, what you see here is just one content each. Okay? I can now push up second one, and all right, likewise push up second one. So you can see as I push up the content, it's the plus sign here. It means that I'm adding on two side-by-side contents per screen. Likewise, I can now touch and alternate them that way. See? So it gives the presenter a lot of flexibilities in how you operate the screen content. All right? Because we assume that most of the time you have plenty to show, and yet you're not restricted to always only show one at a time. Okay? Whenever you want to drop anyone, you can just quick drag and drop down and become one. Okay? Now let's talk about writing. All right? We can always start a new whiteboard content, even the audience are not aware of it. I can just pre-edit my content over the whiteboard here. Okay? And I can just exit and save them. So it's being saved into my prepare field. All right? So at any time, I can just push up to replace. See, there's another loophole here I can replace. when the audience are looking at it now, I can also annotate live in front of them as we teach. Okay, so you have two choices of pre-edit or post-edit your whiteboard content. Okay, so what we have shown you here is that of how we can manage the content according to the queue. So we can also change our queue numbering, if you want to call it, or anyhow you want, by quick drag and drop. So technically, as you teach, right, you're preparing the content to be queued one after another, right? It should follow the flow, right? But anytime you want to change the flow, you can always change like that, without the audience noticing it. Right. So we actually have developed this UI for the presenters to alternate their content anyhow they want onto the screen. Any question?
Sorry, what you just covered is it Signet Pro?
Yes, correct.
Or
The
Pro?
biggest model is the
Pro.
Signet
The
Pro.
most expensive one now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, understand.
Yeah.
Can I ask how is the content being sent to the control panel? Like how, yeah.
So depending on the content, right? As I said earlier, I can have my laptop, my iPad, my phone, wirelessly connect to this station here.
So how is it wirelessly connected?
Okay, we talk about one by one, right? Okay, let's talk about Apple's content, Apple's devices. Apple, they call it the AirPlay. If you have Apple TV at home, yeah, you just have to drop down, pull down the control center, and you see a double rectangle here. You see a double rectangle here is where you click to join any of the device names. Okay, as I click to join, you will see a 4-digit PIN for me to enter. This is for security reason. Only the people in the room can join. Anybody outside the room, they cannot see the PIN, they cannot connect. So nobody is able to intervene into our session. Right. So the AirPlay is applicable to Apple devices like iPhone, iPad, and MacBook.
So will it remember, so it's only log in once or?
You don't even log in. You don't even log in. Just pull down and you see a double rectangle there. That's your AirPlay logo.
So what I mean is that if I've used the screen once and connected, but then I have second educator come in and try to actually add. So, and then the second person will have to also.
Okay, so here's the thing that we always practice, as a presentation habit, right? We call it. So let's say I finished my lesson. What I can do is I can touch the 3 dot here. Okay, and I can end the presentation here. And I start anew. I have to stop recording first because my recording is on. So I press again, end presentation, and start a new presentation, which means all my open content